In today's video, we'll be creating this simple loop using Metaballs. It's going to be a really short one, so let's begin. In our default scene, we're going to select our default cube and press X and delete it. Then we're going to press Shift A and search for a mesh plane and press S4 to scale it by 4 units and then press enter. Then you can press tab to go into edit mode or use this drop down over here and then press 2 or select this button to go to edge select mode. Select this edge right over here and with it selected, press E, Z and then type 8 so that it becomes 8 units tall. Since we scaled this up by 4 units, scaling this up by 8 units should make it the exact same size. Now we can select this edge and press Ctrl B and just bevel it in and then use our mouse scroll wheel to just add in a number of loop cuts and then press enter when you're happy with it and then press tab to go back to object mode and set object shade smooth. Now you can take your camera, press Alt G and Alt R to clear location and rotation, rotate it on the x-axis by pressing RX 90 to rotate it by 90 degrees. Then press GY to grab it on the y-axis and just move it back and then grab it on the z-axis and move it in front. And now you can press 0 on your numpad to go into the camera view to see what we have. Now clearly the camera is a bit too high and a bit too back, so we're going to press GZ and just bring it down, and we're going to press GY and move it in front till we get to somewhere about there. Now with our camera selected, go to our camera properties over here, go to the viewport display and change passport out all the way to 1 so that we see only what's in the camera view. Now we can start off with the animation of our metaballs. So let's press Shift A and search for a metaball and just choose ball. Now you can grab that on the z-axis and just move it up a bit, maybe go out of the camera view and let's scale it down and then go back to our camera view and give this some sort of an animation. So we'll press Shift A and search for a curved circle, and with the Bezier circle we're going to grab it on the z-axis and then rotate it to some random degrees. You can press R twice to get this trackball rotation and then press S and just scale it up and just place it to somewhere you like. So I'll go ahead with something like this. And now with the metaball selected, I'm going to go to the object constraints panel over here and add in a follow path constraint, and for the target I'm going to choose the Bezier circle. Now there's already an offset, so I can just press Alt G to clear the offset and now it'll actually follow the path perfectly. So to actually animate this, I'll go ahead and set my animation defaults. So I'll go to the output properties, change the frame rate to 30 frames per second and the end frame to something like 300 so that it's a 10-second long animation. Along with that, we'll choose our output folder and the file format is going to be FFmpeg video with the encoding set to a container of MPEG-4 and an output quality of perceptually lossless. So now you can go to frame 0, go to the constraint properties and then just tap I while hovering over the offset. Then you can increase your timeline a bit, go to frame 300 and then make the offset 100 and then press I. Then you can hover over the timeline and tap T linear so that you can actually see this metaball go through one entire loop around your circle, and hence it's going to be perfectly looping. However, just one metaball is not going to be enough. So we're going to go and add in a second metaball. But since we've already animated it and parented it or added a constraint to this Bezier circle, we can shift select both of them and then press Shift D to duplicate. And you'll notice that the metaball remains parented or with the constraint to our new duplicated Bezier circle. So now we can just place it somewhere else and then select our Bezier circle and then just rotate it quite a bit. So let's now rotate it to some angle like this. And I'm doing this very arbitrarily. And now the offset is present in this metaball. Now you can keep it or you can press Alt G and clear it. So what I'll do is I'll just play the animation once to see what this looks like. And then based on that, I'll decide whether or not I want to keep it or remove it. So I think there was just a little bit of overlap in this top region, which is happening right about now. And that's all right for the animation right now. To select a specific metaball, you can't just select the metaball because that selects the main metaball object, which is the first metaball that you created. If you want to select it, you have to select the ring around it. And that way you can make changes to the specific metaball. So now let's press Alt G and just see what happens when the location is cleared. There's a lot more of a connection happening and I think I like that better. So I'm going to keep it without any offset, but we obviously require a few more metaball objects to be added. So again, select the metaball, shift select its Bezier circle and then Shift D to create a new one. Then just rotate it around till you're happy with the positioning, and you can always change the scales as well to get smaller metaballs and larger metaballs and things like that. So I've just randomly placed a third metaball into the scene and it has some sort of meshing with this one. That one has the meshing there, and this one does not have any other meshing except for that one, which is all right. Now you can go ahead and play around with this to get as many metaballs as you want into the scene, and you can keep a few that don't move as well. If you want something that doesn't move, just select one of the metaballs, press Shift D, bring it somewhere. So let's say I'll keep this over here and I don't want this one to move. All you have to do is just remove the constraint. Remember, don't select the metaball and do this, because that will remove it for the main object and hence all of them. Select the outer ring of the one that you don't want the follow path to be present in, and then press X and it'll get deleted. However, it'll also reset its location so you can't see it. All you have to do is press Alt G to clear its location and it'll be back. Now you can bring it to wherever you want it, and that should be all right for the animation that we want. Now the next thing that we require is to actually get this to look a lot smoother. So for that, we're going to select our main metaball, or the first metaball that we created, and go to the metaball properties down here. And we're going to go ahead and change the render resolution to something like 0.025, which is the minimum it would go for me. And in fact, for the viewport as well, you can change it to 0.05, which is the minimum, just to see what it looks like. Now, we can't tell the actual speed at which it's going because it's lagging quite a bit. So we have to change the playback from here and change it from play every frame to frame dropping. So now you'll see the actual speed at which it's going, and I think this is a fairly good speed. Maybe this one can have just a very slight movement instead of being completely static. So I'm just going to take one of my Bezier circles, Shift D to duplicate it, bring it to about where the object is, and then just scale it down to something like that. And now I can select my Metaball object and then add in a constraint, follow path, and for the target, just choose this Bezier circle and press Alt G to clear its location. And the offset is going to be animated already based on the previous metaballs because they're all a metaball object and the constraints are being followed by all of them. So now this is the animation that we have, and I'm fairly happy with it. So the next thing that we have to do is take care of the lighting and the shading to make this look more presentable or satisfying in a sense. So to do that, we have to deal with the lighting, and hence we're going to go to our render properties and change all of the defaults there. We're going to change the samples to something actually much higher than 64. We'll go for 128 so that we get softer shadows, and that's very important for satisfying animations. You can even go one step higher and go to 256 if you have the time. Similarly, I'm going to just check ambient occlusion, bloom, and screen space reflections. Although I don't plan on using any of them for this particular tutorial, I'm going to keep them on even then, but you genuinely don't have to. The next thing is we're going to have to change our viewport shading to rendered so that we can actually see it in the rendered view, and then we can go ahead and apply our materials. So select the original Metaball object, go to the materials and add in a new material, and I want it to be very rough, so I'm just going to increase the roughness all the way to 1, and then I can change the base color to a very lightly saturated blue. So something like that should be all right for the color. Now we have to give the background a material, so let's just select the background plane, tap new, and again we're going to increase the roughness all the way to 1, and we're going to change the base color to a very desaturated blue, and that should be all right. Now we have to play with the lighting to actually make this look good. So let's switch on overlays, select our default light, go to the radius and just increase the radius quite a bit. And now we have to go ahead and add in a few area lamps. Let's press Shift A, light, area, GZ, just grab it up. Now you can scale it up a bit and increase the power to something like 100. And similarly, we need something at the bottom. So we'll take one from the bottom left and one from the bottom right. So let's Shift D, bring it here, grab it, and then take this yellow dot. You can just click and drag it to point it to the direction that you want. So I think something like this is what I'm aiming for. Then I want one on the other side as well. So just Shift D, bring it to this side, take this and drag it to about there. So now when you look at it, this is the animation that we currently have. And there are shadows being formed on the ground plane as well, but you can't exactly see them because we aren't at the right angle for our camera. So I generally want to just change that a bit. So I'm just going to select the camera, grab that on the Y, just move it back slightly. And with that, select our back plane and just scale that up as well. And then grab it on the Z and just bring it up a little bit. So make sure that you don't bring it up so much that your metaballs start clipping into the floor, because they are going very close to the floor like this one. And yeah, as long as it's not clipping, it should be all right. And hopefully there's enough of shadows being formed as well. So that looks perfectly all right from my viewpoint. So I guess that is how you could create a very simple looping animation using Metaballs. Of course, if you wanted, you could change up the materials a bit, make it a little bit metallic, bring down the roughness quite a bit, and then you'd have something that looks like this. And maybe you could change up the material for the floor as well, or the plain surface, whatever you add for it. You could reduce its roughness, maybe increase its metallicness as well. But at the end of the day, it's completely up to you to decide how you want to render this out and what type of an animation you want to create. So I'm sure you're going to take the concepts that were shown in this video and create something absolutely unique and absolutely amazing. So I'll keep posting videos every single day, and until you watch the next video, keep creating and always stay creative.